Hello, I'm Esther Gidu-Ewart. It's Tuesday, November 22nd. This is Africa 54.
Anti-French sentiment is spreading across West Africa, and many citizens there are accusing their former colonizer of profiteering at the expense of regular Africans. Ivory Coast's unprecedented gold rush caused a surge of illegal mining. We'll have a report. And in our health report, we'll have some insight on containing outbreaks and preventing epidemics. All this and much more on today's Africa 54.
A growing anti-French sentiment is spreading across West Africa, especially in former French colonies. Many citizens are accusing their former colonial masters of profiteering at the expense of ordinary Africans. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
France is losing its grip on power in parts of West Africa for its alleged monopoly on the region's economy. Nearly one-third of African countries have been under French control at some point in their history. However, 60 years after independence, France is no longer the dominant power and an anti-France sentiment is rising. Mali's junta government has announced a ban on activities of non-governmental organizations or NGOs funded or supported by France, including humanitarian groups, as friction worsens between Paris and Bamako.
Consequently, the government of transition has decided to prohibit with immediate effect all activities carried out by NGOs operating in Mali with funding or with material or technical support from France, including in the humanitarian field.
The West African nation's interim Prime Minister, Kano Abdouwale Maïga, justified the move in a statement on social media, calling it a response to France's recent halt to development aid for Mali. The French Foreign Ministry said it had made the decision last week, which came 3 months after finalizing its pullout of the anti-jihadist forces from the country over Bamako's alleged use of the Russian paramilitary group Wagner. France is a former colonial power on the nations across West Africa and Central Africa. It has long-standing military ties across Francophone Africa, and French troops were stationed in Mali for a decade as part of a counter-terrorism operation. Critics say France's operation there was a failure and blame it for further destabilizing the region. It also has been fighting Russia for influence in recent years, with several countries deploying Wagner Group paramilitaries. President Emmanuel Macron has accused Russia of feeding the anti-French propaganda in Africa to serve predatory ambitions in troubled West African states.
I'm no fool. Many influencers, sometimes speaking on your programs, are paid by the Russians. I know that very well. We know them, and they keep repeating that discourse. They haven't experienced colonization and don't know what it is. But they are doing that because it's a political discourse. And because several powers, who want to spread their influence in Africa, are doing this to hurt France and its language, sow doubts, and pursue certain interests above all. You only have to look at what's going on in the Central African Republic or elsewhere to see that the Russian project underway there, when France has been pushed aside, is a project of predation.
As a result, France has suffered military setbacks and a more comprehensive loss of influence over recent years. This development comes as the world's French-speaking countries gathered in Tunisia last week for talks focused on economic cooperation, but also faced calls to resolve international crises in the face of fraudulent elections, power grabs, and military coups in Mali, Guinea, Chad, and Burkina Faso. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
For more perspective, I'm joined by Professor Anja Klagoke, an assistant professor of history and Pan-Africana studies at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. Professor Nyaka, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you very much, Esther, for the opportunity.
Let's hear your views on what's really fueling these anti-French sentiments in former French colonies.
The answer is simple. Africa was colonized after the Berlin Conference, and then several generations of Africans fought for Africa to be free. And then after the 60s, the Europeans put into place another system called neocolonialism, and it is led by several European countries, especially by France, which is controlling the political, cultural, economic, social life of Africa, of Francophone Africa. And then there is a new generation of Africans, like Modibo Keïta in Mali, Sékou Touré in Guinea, and some other people like Kwame Nkrumah or Mandela in South Africa. They said that enough is enough. That's it. And then why France? It is because France is more adamant to maintain that system, contrary to a country like Spain or Portugal, who were also colonizers in Africa.
But saying enough is enough can really, these are long-term relationships with the French. How easily can you break these ties?
It's going to happen. I don't even have any doubt. It's going to happen. Our ancestors fought for freedom, and then we had the political independence, and now this generation is fighting for the political and economic independence of Africa. So when you go to those 14 African countries, you take water, the water sector, electricity sector, telecommunication, publishing, all aspects of the African countries' lives are controlled by France. And then blaming Russia is not helping the French because they have to adjust, and this is what we are asking them to do.
I was going to ask you about that sentiment from Emmanuel Macron saying Russia is the one that is instigating Africans against France. What is the connection here?
If I was not here, I was going to use a strong word, but I will not. Because I've never met any Russian politician, and then you know me. Since 2007, we launched a Pan-African platform in the United States here, and we've been promoting the Pan-African consciousness, and many other people are doing the same thing all over the world. So by thinking that we are so childish, or that the Russian can instigate that in us, it is the biggest insult that we can receive from a son of colonizers and a son of slave masters. And then it is because people are not responding to Macron. That's why he's continuing to promote that narrative. It is not about Russia.
Professor, obviously there have been some good and maybe not so good things happening between the French people and the West African colonies, former colonies of France. But again, I mean, can you just blame the French for everything that has happened? And can there be a dialogue, that brings peace? Because right now we're seeing protests, banning of embassies and stuff like that.
They are avoiding the conversation because they are not comfortable in having a true conversation with us. So it's not like we don't want to have a conversation. When they saw that Africans were waking up, fighting, they tried to seduce, charm, corrupt people here and there. And then France, it is just what we see, just the beginning. When they talk about Russia, people have to know. When Africa was fighting for independence, Russia and China were on the side of people who were fighting. And France, England, and many other European countries, they were on the side of the colonizers.
We'll have to leave it there, Professor. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
Professor Anja Klagoke is an assistant professor of history and Pan-Africana studies at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. For 10 years, Ivory Coast has experienced an unprecedented gold rush. And while it is a fast expanding market for this historically agriculture-based nation, it is also causing a surge in illegal mining. Yassine Sio reports from Ivory Coast in this report narrated by VOA's Michelle Joseph.
In the Daoukro region of central Ivory Coast, these gold miners are illegally digging. Bawentol is a 25-year-old farmer who arrived 4 months ago from neighboring Burkina Faso.
As there is often no rain, There is not enough water at home. So I decided to come and work in gold because it is in the gold that we can get ahead more quickly.
A gold miner can sometimes earn around $450 a month. It can take a farm worker a year to earn the same amount.
I used to work in my parents' field. We planted eggplants there, but it did not bring me any money. Gold is worth a lot more than eggplants.
This landowner, Gaston Koukaminan, is a rubber planter like his father and grandfather before him. A few years ago, this land was a natural rubber plantation. In 2017, he abandoned the family business to embark on illegal gold panning.
My rubber plantations get destroyed every year because of bushfires. I decided to stop cultivating rubber trees to search for gold instead.
In 2021, the state began trying to stop illegal gold prospectors by creating a special brigade that has run some high-profile raids on illegal gold mining sites. Koukaminan is aware of the risk he runs by illegally mining and says he's taking steps to turn legitimate.
I'm going to do the paperwork for the gold mine because I see it's important to do so. If I manage to get the papers, at least I won't be afraid.
Lassina Sako is the co-owner of this semi-industrial mine and works legally. He legalized his mine operation in 2015 when the Ivorian state issued a new mining code.
Today, gold is a good business, especially since the government has made many efforts to regularize the sector. It allows me today to be an entrepreneur. It allows me to work freely. It allows me not to worry about bandits.
Advocates say bringing gold miners under a legal umbrella will benefit the whole country.
At the local level, the populations do not have the technical expertise to preserve the environment, the fauna and the flora. They also do not have the capabilities to manage revenue to create added value in local development.
And government officials clearly realize the money being made could make a real difference in the economic lives of Ivory Coast citizens.
There is room to promote this sector more so that it is better known and understood and continues to contribute to the national economy.
Helping millions of clandestine gold miners become legal without depriving them of their source of income is no easy task, especially with the promise of gold money pushing more people into the illegal mining business every day. For Yassim Sio in Ivory Coast, this is Michelle Joseph, VOA News.
Ghana's Black Stars will make their World Cup debut this Thursday in Qatar. They are playing the former European champions Portugal in Doha. Ghanaian soccer fans are hopeful that their team will beat Portugal and eventually make it out of their group stages. Let's go live now to Accra, Ghana, where VOA's Jackson Vunganyi is standing by. Hello, Jackson.
Hello, Esther.
What is the mood like in Ghana as they await the big day?
So much excitement as Ghanaians prepare to take on Portugal in their first game of the tournament. You know, not many people get to say their country plays in or played in the World Cup. So this is really a very special moment for them, Esther.
Jackson, I hear there's a special academy somewhere in Accra, and you are there this morning. What is special about that academy?
Yes, indeed. This is the Taking Over Youth Soccer Academy, also known as the Liberty Soccer Academy, that recruits and trains young, talented Ghanaians from around the country. Now, as many prepare for a career as professional soccer players, many of these young men either end up playing for local leagues here, or many of them also end up playing in Europe in these big teams like Arsenal. But most importantly, they say that the thing that brings them pride is that they end up playing for the Black Stars, and some of the legendary Black Stars like Suleiman Tali, Michael Essien, Jan went through this academy. And Atsu Temaklo, a local sports analyst, tells me that the country is abundant with potential talents that just need the right environment to make it to the big leagues. This is what he said.
The current Ghanaian defending champions, Klagoke, came for, I think, Sheriff Mohammed from Liberty Professionals. And he started every game for them in the Ghana Premier League since he made that switch. So already teams have started picking this academy apart and taking away their talent. But as has been the case with them, the conveyor belts never run dry. They keep producing talents.
There's more. Yeah. There's more where they came from.
And Jackson, what are Ghanaians saying about the expected match tomorrow?
They are cautiously optimistic, given that the team is young and some of them are inexperienced. But Yusuf Atuman, who helps train these young men at the soccer academy, says that, the Black Stars are likely to surprise everyone at this year's World Cup. He said this.
I believe the Black Stars will make an impact. I can't say the Black Stars are going to win the World Cup because that would be me dreaming in a wonderland, But I believe we'll make an impact because the Black Stars, whenever expectations are low, that is when they tend to rise up to the occasion. They might not be the household names we used to know. They are Samoajans, the Michaelasians, the Sulemuntaris. They might not, be like them. But what we have now is a group of players who are on the rise, a group of young players who are hungry to succeed, a group of young players, a chunk of whom have never played at the World Cup before. And so they will see this as an opportunity presented to them to play football on the global stage, and the biggest stage football has to offer. And so I'm sure they would like to take it.
Jackson, we'll have to catch up tomorrow. Thank you so much for that report. Jackson Buganya reporting for us live from Accra, Ghana. Now for more on the World Cup, let's go to Qatar, where the action is with VOA Sports Guru Sunday Shomari joining us live from Doha. Hello, Sunday.
Hello, Esther.
Well, you look great over there. Well, the biggest, I think, maybe upsets in the World Cup history happened today between Argentina and Saudi Arabia. What are the people in Doha saying?
Esther, there's a Swahili saying that says, that goes, the baobab tree has been taken down. That's what has happened tonight here, because no one was even expecting or thinking Argentina, who are potential champions, to win this game against Saudi Arabia. But that's exactly what happened. These young people, these young men from Saudi Arabia played their heart out and won the game. And it came from behind, actually, 1-0 to win 2-1. So Esther, all the young men I talked to, they were saying, you know what? We know Argentina is a strong team. We know maybe they'll win maybe minimum 4 goals because they saw what happened to England and Iran last night. But to their surprise, this is what happened. And so many did not see this coming. But anyway, I met somebody, one of the fans here in Doha, and I wanted to know his take on this game tonight.
Argentina today, I am really shocked why they play like this. In the friendly match before the World Cup, they have a good performance. Really, look, before the game, I expected it's a good team, a very tough clash between two teams. But today, this is football, For me, look, we have go back to the history for the World Cup 1990 in Italy. Okay, Argentina in the first match was beaten from Cameroon, remember? So maybe in the same scenario, maybe we will see Argentina in the final. We don't know. So for me, good luck for the both team. Okay, that's why.
Sunday, another double disappointment today with the only African team, Tunisia, playing Denmark, and with a goalless draw. What are fans saying? Sunday? All right, I guess we'll have to leave it there, Sunday. I'm losing the connection there. Sunday Shomari, VOA Sports reporter, live for us from Doha, Qatar. In other news, authorities say at least 11 people died and 43 were injured Tuesday when their bus overturned on a highway in northern Morocco. The bus flipped over a few kilometers from the city of Taza in the mountainous northeast. King Charles on Tuesday welcomed South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to London for the first state visit of his reign. Climate change and trade are among the topics discussed. And the International Monetary Fund has approved an $88.3 million food shock loan to Malawi in response to food price spikes and shortages caused by Russia's war in Ukraine. It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with a look at containing outbreaks and preventing epidemics. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. It's good to be here next to you. Well, it's in its second Epidemics that didn't happen report, the organization Resolved to Save Lives showcases inspiring stories of how careful planning and swift strategic action have stopped outbreaks of infectious diseases such as Ebola, dengue, rabies, and even the flu in the past year. For more insight, I spoke with Amanda McClellan. She is Senior Vice President of Prevent Epidemics at Resolve to Save Lives, and Dr. Precious Matsoso. She is a World Health Organization advisor, former Director General of South Africa's Department of Health, and co-chair of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body for Pandemic Treaty with WHO. Take a look. Amanda McClellan and Precious Matsoso, thank you so much for joining us. When we saw how much COVID had impacted the world, regardless of economic status, what does it tell us in terms of where the priority should be to prevent epidemics?
I think every country has a responsibility, whether it's low income or high income. I think there's a lot to learn from low income and middle income countries in how they addressed COVID with a holistic approach. But we've definitely seen an erosion of their capacity and resilience in their communities. And we're seeing some of those outbreaks that used to be fairly easy to control, like measles and cholera, really surging back now. And I think that really shows that this is a constant investment. We need to sustain and expand this investment. Diseases that we thought we had conquered, like polio, will take every opportunity to come back. And so the Epidemics That Didn't Happen report really demonstrates that this is a fight that we have to make every day, an investment that we have to make every day to make sure that we control outbreaks and reduce the impact for all countries.
Precious, when we talk about building strong preparedness systems and decisive response plans, what does it look like, especially if we compare, between high-income countries and low and middle-income countries?
Your health workforce must be trained, and you must ensure that they are competent. Your lab systems and the speed at which you get results must be good, because it's not enough if you have laboratory services, but your results are delayed. The CDC always talks about, I call them disease detectives. Train your disease detectives so that they can be able to detect early and be able to respond with speed. There's a proposal to say this idea of having a 717. Within those 7 days, detect and establish what has happened. Within a day report, within 7 days, you must be able to respond.
Amanda, what surprised you in this report this time around, and what sort of impact do you anticipate or do you hope this report can make in future outbreaks?
What surprised me was the progress that Guinea had made. I was there in 2014. The community was heavily devastated and overwhelmed, and they made smart strategic investments. And I was really proud to see that they identified Ebola quickly and they controlled it quickly, and they shared those lessons, similar to DRC, who faces this Ebola challenge. And then I think the Indonesian example about communities finding solutions for themselves. The Indonesian community faced the challenge of dengue, but they found community-based solutions that help them identify when someone in the community has dengue, and they take local action. They don't wait for the Ministry of Health to come. They mobilize quickly and they try to address where the mosquitoes are breeding. They get their community members to the clinic quickly. And a government that really identified that epidemics are a social and political and economic event, not just a health event, and invested smartly to make sure that they didn't suffer the same fate that they did during 2014.
It's something when we talk about preparedness, right? But it seems like when there's an outbreak, countries are catching up instead of being one step ahead if they are so well prepared.
I think preparedness is a choice of investment, and we haven't made that choice regularly enough. Too often we wait for the response to come and we surge in. And there's been some metaphors related to fire. We too often are waiting for the outbreak to occur and rushing to put the fire out, and you're always behind. We need to invest in those fire alarm systems, those rapid response teams, the building codes that limit the chance that fire breaks out. And that's why we think Epidemics That Didn't Happen is important, because when we're successful, when we are in front of it, no one hears.
When we do those joint external evaluations, it's like a one-time snapshot. You look good at a particular point in time, and that talks to what you're asking about the US and other well-resourced countries. 3 months later, you may look different. So the idea of those joint external evaluations that trigger the development of a preparedness plans should be tested on an ongoing basis.
We're really proud of the report and to be able to shine the great work of public health and communities in finding outbreaks quickly and responding and controlling them, and highlighting the need to continue that investment consistently so that we're able to do that for every outbreak, and that the Epidemics That Didn't Happen report becomes all outbreaks and not just a handful.
I think perhaps these are lessons learned that can be shared. Those countries that did their best with meager resources, but they were able to tackle these outbreaks. Let's share these with others so that they can make those wise investments.
And that's all for today's health report. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at @Linarmoudou. Esther?
Not so fast as they say. You're not going anywhere. Now, you know, whenever we do interviews like this, there's always something left out that our viewers would like to hear.
Yes.
You still have a few seconds to
tell us.
A lot
left out. This was a long interview, but they said some interesting things. One of the things that they said, I asked them about, what about the fact that countries that have experienced an outbreak have more experience in terms of dealing with an epidemic? How much of that comes into play when it comes to dealing with new epidemics? And yes, DRC is a good example when it comes to Ebola, right? Today, an Ebola outbreak, yes, it is a difficult situation, but yes, DRC has the means, the know-how, the experience to deal with it, as opposed to a country that has never dealt with it. So experience is very important in preventing epidemics, and investment.
Wow, investment. We need money, more money. And there's no money right now. But thank you, Lino. Thanks to Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Moudou's health reports every Tuesday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com.